Guys, gonna be doing just some test hands for you guys, just so you guys could see a little bit behind my thought process, just with the way that I play Swordsoul. As you guys know, this deck is probably gonna be irrelevant once Magnificent Mavens and all that other stuff comes out later at the beginning of this year, next year. But yeah, I still feel that Swordsoul is pretty good deck. A lot of people are saying that it's dead, that it's dying. But you can see that the deck still performs pretty good, pretty well against a lot of matchups. As you guys know, the format has shifted to board breakers, and a lot of decks lose the board breakers, and it's not no it's not no secret that Swordsoul loses the board breakers. So you kind of just have to build around that, and that's what I feel like my deck did. So here we're starting off with 2 Ecclesia, 1 Droplet, a Taya, and a Shatana. This hand is pretty mid, as we drew both the Ecclesia, so they probably won't have any usage for us. We have our Worm Monsters, and then we have a Droplet, which the Droplet's a very great card in this format. Probably one of the best cards. I like it better than Dark Ruler No More, just because of the fact that it can target many monsters and also lowers their attack. Plus, you could still conduct battle phase and wreck your opponent. So this card's very great. Would recommend it if you guys can play it, but if you guys can't, Dark Ruler No More is another great option. So for this hand, I guess what I would do is I would probably save the Taya for a little bit later, maybe next turn. And I would probably start off by summoning the Ecclesia. Ecclesia, go off into Mo Yi. Simple, standard, everything's gonna be standard. Mo Yi, right there. Mo Yi's effect we're gonna reveal. For the reveal, we're not gonna reveal the Taya because the Taya is a very important card for follow-up turns. So we're gonna hide that card from our opponent, revealing the Shatana. Shatana, we'll go back to hand. We'll then get a token out. Obviously, standard Swordsoul plays. You guys have probably watched them a million times. Slime token. We're gonna Synchro 8. And now this is where the tricky part gets into play. And I guess, like, as a good player, you have to make the best decisions. You're gonna get the draw 1 off of Mo Yi for Chainlink 1, Chainlink 2, Chichao. So you're gonna draw 1, getting the Pot of Desires, and we're gonna add 1. So right here in this hand, I would either, depending on what I think my opponent is thinking, I'm either gonna go Long Yawn, and I don't really like to go Blackout a whole lot of the times unless like my hand was Long Yawn, Mo Yi, a bunch of other stuff. But in this certain situation, I guess that I would just probably go for I'd probably go for the Long Yawn, just because next turn that's probably guaranteed follow-up. I could probably summon out the Long Yawn in hopes that my opponent doesn't have Nibiru. But then again, it's just one of those things where you kind of have to hope and pray that he doesn't have Nibiru. And then even then, still some of the cards that we run, like Baron, and Supreme Leader, they're not too great against board breakers, and especially in this format, they're not really all that great. Maybe you could possibly go into this and burn their planet, and maybe a special summon monster, kind of like the same thing that we do with Fluunderies. But then again, the matchup is just getting worse and worse and worse, and especially as those Shizu cards come out, we're going to definitely be in the dust. I definitely think that a card to run during that format would probably be Shadow Imprisoning, but then again, I don't really know how it would hold up against the Shizu stuff. So then again, you're still running on a lot of gas that, is no longer in the tank. A lot of the plays that we do just don't make a whole lot of sense, in the sense that, like I said, the board breakers, what are you going to have next for following turn? So in this situation, I guess I'd probably, go summon Long Yawn, pitch the Shatana, got the token. Synchro. I don't think we've used any War Monsters effects, so I don't think we're locked in. And then, yeah, that's why I was saying, like, we have to hope and pray that our opponent doesn't have Nibiru, because in this moment, that's exactly 5, probably more. So then again, in this situation, I guess I would just go for a Baron, just to have that 1 pop on the 10, on the board. Like I said, the whole format now is just board breakers, so these 2 monsters alone don't really do anything. You know, you could activate the Pot of Desires and banish 10, and we'll just see how that looks. 3, 6, 9, 10. Our banished pile was called by Mystic Mine. So a bunch of just random bulk. This would have been nice to have. We banished 2 Mystic Mines, so that's going to hurt us if we need to get into a grind game. So draw 2, another Forbidden Droplet with Adahara. Very bad draws. We didn't want to draw these. So you can see that maybe the Pot of Desires was probably not the best thing to do in that situation, considering that, you know, the next one to draw was Vishuddha, and then Emergencies. So you don't have to go with the Pot of Desires. You can always use the Pot of Desires for next turn. And also, too, I guess what would be something that I learned that you could probably do for next turn is actually, if they Pot of Desires, if you Pot of Desires, you can chain Droplet, get rid of the pot, and then you can still draw your 2. So still very great of a deck. You just have to focus on everything that you're doing and make sure that your plays are more well-rounded out. A card that we didn't draw that I like to have in this deck, which I don't know if it's going to be great next format, is Anti-Spell Fragrance. I really am in love with this card, especially in this format. And for the last couple of formats, actually, where spells are just being used as like engine type monsters, all that kind of stuff. So when I put the Anti-Spell Fragrance in the deck, I noticed that a lot of people like just didn't, if they didn't draw Cosmic Cyclone or MST or whatever it may have been to get them out of their plays, if they didn't drop this, it was looking like a whole set of spells were going down on their field. And it's kind of laughable, because you see a little chuckle on their face when they have to set 5 spells, and then not only that, you can take your turn at getting them out of the field, so that way they're not used. But again, this is probably the highlight card in the deck. I don't know if I'm going to be maining it for next format with Ishizus and Sprites. Maybe for Sprites it's probably still a good card, but to be honest, with that Ishizu tier element match, definitely going to need to find more avenues for this deck to be able to compete. Maybe that's with the pure variant instead of the tennies, but this deck is still pretty good. I'm not going to run it off yet and say that it's, you know, dead or whatever, because there's definitely consistent ideas. The runic cards weren't available back when this deck came out. It was only the tennies, so maybe, you know, maybe there might be a strong individual that might be a Swordsoul runic player who can actually, you know, take in some just hard work and grind, which the deck looks kind of interesting to me, and I am kind of interested. It's just that those runic prices are just kind of expensive, and it's a whole deck of its own. So, you know, it's one of those things where you don't want to test it because it can become too expensive. So what are you really testing if it might not even run and work at the end of the day? But yeah, everything in this deck is pretty simple and based. Players, especially now, have to, like I said, figure a way to make this deck just a whole lot better. And I just don't think that it's done just yet. There's no way that this deck is done right now. As for my side deck cards, if you guys want to help me out with these, I'm going to be citing in 3 Rivalry, 2 Ghost Ogre, we have the 1 Pank, 3 DD Crow, 3 Lightning Storm, 2 Regeki, and then one of everyone's favorite, the Harpy Feather Duster. That's going to be my extra deck. My side deck. That's going to be everything that I run. As for the extra, You have the tokens, which we're not even gonna count those. You have 3 monk, 1 shaman. Everything's pretty simple. You have your 2 Chichao, 1 Draco, 1 of the big bird, 1 small bird, 3 medium birds. Then we have for the level 10s, everything is pretty simple. No Psychic End Punisher, no Ruby, Red Rose, Dragon, whatever you want to call it. All of this is just basically simple, and I feel like this this extra deck is what pushes the deck to the next level. If there was maybe, I don't know, better worm monsters or better cards that would have great synergy with this deck, maybe this deck can become tier 1 again. But as for right now, we're sitting in the tier 2 rogue category. But yeah, this deck still performs, and it's crazy to think about that rogue decks can still go crazy plays, 1-card combos, and we're still losing to, you know, set other decks. But this is just the day that we live in. Everyone's got to get used to it and become smarter, so that way we can beat the meta, and that way we can, yeah, have some fun out here. And I don't want anyone to quit the game, because there's no reason to quit the game. This is just all a part of the fun formats. Maybe you need a switch up change. Maybe you just need to keep playing. Maybe you just need to research more. It all comes with just playing the game more and more and more and more and more. And, you know, a lot of people don't have the time to be playing it, but that's how you're going to get better. That's how you're going to start winning prizings at your locals. That's how you're going to start being able to talk about your deck profiles and all that kind of stuff, is by putting in the work. The last couple of weeks ago, I had the remote extravaganza. Didn't do too hot, but it was my first ever remote duel ever over the last couple of years. So I was very, very excited for that. But thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more content. Don't know what's going to be up next. Maybe something in the future, maybe something real soon. I don't know. But again, thank you guys, thank you girls, thank you all for watching. Again, I'm out. J Money out.